to acknowledge the important sacrifices they and their families have made for us. As we begin the ceremony, I would like to please call your attention to the Vietnam Memorial Wall to my left. This memorial has been set up by our local Vietnam War veterans, the Vietnam Veterans of American Chapter 73, and is in dedication and honor to the 2,661 men and women from the state of Michigan who lost their lives in the Vietnam War. Thank you for sharing this special and important piece of history with us. And now we are honored to have our local veterans here with us today. So students, staff, and members of the community, please join me in welcoming and honoring our guests this morning. Please remain standing for the presentation of our colors, the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner, and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
And so they came to this great land, explorers first, seeking their dreams as it led them through a vast gateway of winding rivers. As the years passed, the young country, led by men of vision and valor, felt compelled to throw off its bonds and establish a new government, one which would derive its powers from the consent of the governed. Against seemingly insurmountable odds, the flame of freedom burned brighter still. Victory at Yorktown meant political freedom, and America was again on the move. Westward! But a shadow remained over the flame. For many, freedom was still only a dream, and a voice was heard crying throughout the land, "Let my people go." disappeared, and again the sun seemed to shine. America was yet another step closer to freedom, democracy, a government of all the people, by all the people, for all the people, a government after the principles of eternal justice, the American idea.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, students, teachers, and honored guests. Thank you, West Ottawa Band and Choir, for that beautiful performance. Today, we gather to honor the sacrifices of our veterans, men and women who have worn the uniform and served our country with valor and unwavering commitment. Our veterans encompass the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, National Guard, both active and reserved, and those who served with honorable discharge. Their bravery has secured for us the freedom and justice that form the foundation of our great nation. Our veterans answered a call to serve something greater than themselves, and many endured immense hardship to protect the freedoms we cherish today. They stood on the front lines for our unity, our peace, and our shared future. They sacrificed so that we may live under a flag that represents liberty, democracy, and the promise of justice for all. As we honor these heroes today, let us remember that our veterans fought not just for a nation, but for an ideal. The ideal of a country where every individual is valued and respected, regardless of their background, belief, or way of life. Their sacrifice calls us to be a united America, where we embrace our differences and find strength in our diversity. In a world that often feels divided, it is easy to lose sight of what unites us. But our veterans had the courage, and their courage reminds us that we must come together, not only in gratitude, but also in respect for one another. Just as they defended our rights and freedoms, we have a duty to uphold them by showing love, respect, and understanding in our daily lives. Let us all be inspired by the spirit of service and sacrifice that our veterans embody. They served so that our differences could coexist harmoniously under the shared promise of freedom and the bright light of hope. Today and every day, let us honor their legacy by standing united, embracing our diversity, and bringing love and light into a world that needs it. May we always strive to be a nation worthy of their sacrifice. It is now my honor to recognize all our veterans this morning. Veterans, when I read your name, please stand and remain standing. And audience, please hold your applause until all the veterans' names have been read. Norman Lietzma, Army. Tim McMichael, Navy. Bill Stauhauer, Army. Linda Bear, Army. Terry Rosebeck, Army. Bob Gibson, Army. Faith Gibson, Army. David Dobb, Marine Corps. Tom Hinder, Army. Stephen Van Dyke, Army. Steve Stanstead, Navy. Thomas Van Horst, Marine Corps. Herbert Clem, Army. Wayne Postma, Navy. Kenneth Wiley, Navy. Michael Pokorski, Army. Larry Rosema, Army. Eric Epsmussen, Army. Emily Bremer, Navy. Eric Holt, Navy. Harold Vandenberg, Army. Philip Spreitzer, Army. Larry Brewer, Air Force, Army. Lee Harris, Army. Ronald D. Ward, Navy. Yuli Hurlweimer, Navy. Stephen Mokma, Army. Maximilian Garcia, Marine Corps. John Taminga, Army. Rodney Van Loo, Army. Ralph Lindholm, Army. Ben Terpstra, Army. James Davis, Marine Corps. Dennis Bull, Army. Gil Castillo, Air Force. Robert Van Dyke, Navy. Robert Prinz, Army. Chris Knoll, Army. Del Makma, Army. Robert Ruiz, Army. Kevin Hawkins, Navy. Ashley Ray, Navy. Fred Troust, Army. Ken Holler, Air Force. Robert Weller, Army. Ryan Klingman, Marine Corps. Daniel Hevelin, Navy. Richard Jakubczak, Navy. James Zoner, Army. Mary Sol Dexter, Army. Thomas Oakley, Army. Jennifer Gradnigo, Army. Alan Gradnigo, Air Force. Vic Grassmanis, Army. Please give them all a round of applause. West Ottawa High School thanks you for your service and sacrifice. In closing, let us remember that Veterans Day is not just a day of remembrance, it is a day of gratitude, unity, and celebration. Today we honor the bravery and dedication and sacrifice of those who have served, and we celebrate the enduring spirit of our nation and the values we hold dear. As we look to the future, may we carry forward the legacy of our veterans by striving to uphold the principles of freedom and justice for all. Let us commit ourselves to building a nation that reflects their courage and commitment, a place where all people are valued, respected, and protected. So to our veterans, past and present, we thank you for your service, for your sacrifice, for the light you have brought to our nation. May we never take for granted the freedoms you've secured, and may we stand with you now and always, just as you have always stood for us. Thank you.
We have gathered here today to observe Veterans Day and to honor the brave men and women who have fought to maintain peace and freedom for all others. Beginning with the War of 1812, nearly 40 million people have been called to serve in our nation's military during times of war. The 16 million who served in World War II were an average of 26 years old, and 2/3 of those men were drafted. The 8.7 million who served in Vietnam were an average age of 22. That is just a few years older than many students here today. 2/3 of those men willingly risked their lives and volunteered. 70% of those who died were volunteers. Currently, there are approximately 1.3 active military personnel and more than 16 million living veterans in the United States today. Nearly every one of us here today knows someone who has served or is serving our country in a branch of the armed forces. Here today to remind us the importance of Veterans Day is West Ottawa student Sophia Brown.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, students and staff, for gathering to commemorate our veterans, and thank you to all the veterans here today for allowing us to honor your remarkable service. It is a privilege to stand before you all today with the opportunity to recognize and thank our veterans and their steadfast commitment to upholding the liberties of this country. As hundreds of students sit in the gymnasium, we are reminded that Veterans Day is not just another date on the calendar, it is a somber remembrance of the men and women who displayed acts of courage and patriotism on behalf of their country to defend the liberties we are granted daily as citizens of the United States: justice, freedom, liberty, and the opportunity of a resilient future. As we commemorate our veterans' services, we also aim to highlight the courage they put forward to answer the call. Whether in the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, or Coast Guard, every one of our veterans devoted themselves to a calling that requires the highest amount of sacrifice. As they selflessly chose to put their country ahead of themselves, they had to leave behind their loved ones, their communities, and their security. Whether serving in times of combat or concord, each veteran displays an incredible fortitude when taking the oath to serve the United States, knowing the task they are to embark on will pose uncertainty for their health, mind, and return home. As a people, it is our responsibility as citizens of the United States to make veterans feel appreciated, not just on Veterans Day, but throughout the entire year. As veterans transition back to civilian life after their service, it's often hard for them to adjust back to the way of life they once experienced. Some struggle with their mental health, others with their social life, and others still with their occupation. Supporting our veterans after their return home is essential, as it can help aid in making for a comfortable transition back. A simple thank you for your service when noticing a veteran passing by helps them to feel appreciated for their bravery and lets them know the public recognizes their impact. We also recognize these veterans' families whose quiet sacrifices often go unnoticed. Though not actively in service, your unwavering love and support for our service members encourages our veterans to continue on with their journey. Without you, we would no longer have the foundation upon which our soldiers stand tall. Though we celebrate the veterans who sit with us today, we must also take time to remember those who never came home. Today is a time of celebration of those with us, but also a melancholy tribute to those who have fallen, who gave the ultimate sacrifice to safeguard the freedom of American citizens. As Audie said, most of us who sit here today know someone who was or is currently in one of the branches of the military. For me, it's my grandpa, who spent 4 years serving in the Marine Corps. Although he's no longer with me, I hold his impact close to my heart, and I hope you all are willing to do the same for those in your life who have served or continue to dedicate their lives to serving. As we depart from each other today, please take some time to give thanks to our service members. Whether near or far, with us or past, the peace we are privileged to have, knowing we live within the safety and liberty of the United States, is owed to them. Thank you.
We gather here today to commemorate and to honor all those living and dead for their sacrifices in preserving peace, liberty, and justice. Helping us pay tribute to our West Ottawa veterans are 9 current West Ottawa students. Following each tribute, there will be a moment of silence. Please hold all applause.
Today we honor Daniel M. Arizmendez, a member of the class of 1965. Daniel was the son of Carlos and Linda Arizmendez, and the brother of Rebecca, Carmen, and Larry. While at West Ottawa High School, Dan played football, ran track, and became president of the Knights Club, an organization that raised money to aid in school activities. Many remember Dan as a gifted artist. Dan was also very well liked and admired by his peers. When Dan turned 18, he immediately joined the Marines and was sent to fight in Vietnam. Dan encountered no problems during his first tour of duty and could have come home to stay. Instead, he chose to return to Vietnam to fight in his second tour of duty. Marine Corporal Daniel M. Arizmendez died in the vicinity of Quang Nam on May 29, 1968, while serving his country. He was 22 years old.
Today we honor Robert J. Westrait, a member of the class of 1966. He was the son of Chester and Nellie Westrait and the second oldest of 6 children. While in high school, Robert participated in intramural sports and the Future Farmers of America Club his sophomore, junior, and senior years. Robert attended North Holland Reformed Church and was president of his youth group. He was a quiet, well-liked individual with a ready smile. Robert enlisted in the Army as an engineer in February of 1967, and his courage earned him the Purple Heart when he was wounded in action in December of that same year. 6 months later, Army Specialist, 4th Class, Robert J. Westrait, died in Vietnam on June 7, 1968, while serving his country. He was 19 years old.
Today we honor Terry Robert Meyer, a member of the class of 1965. He was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Robert V. Meyer of Holland and had 2 brothers, Jeff and Mark, and a sister, Susan. Terry was very athletic throughout high school, playing football for 1 year, basketball and baseball for 4 years, and running cross country for 3. Terry had high goals for himself. He was a hard worker. His ability in athletics illustrates this, and he was very determined. He was never in the spotlight, but he enjoyed being a member of the team. After high school, Terry Meyer joined the Army and served the 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant Terry Robert Meyer died near Dien, Vietnam on August 13, 1968, while serving his country. He was 21 years old.
Today, we honor Robert Edwin Knoll, a member of the class of 1965. He was the only son of Bernard and Lois Knoll. and brother to sisters Jennifer, Margie, and Valerie. Bob was extremely people-oriented. His friends said he had a good sense of humor and a kind heart. Bob was also intelligent, and that was one of the reasons people followed him. These qualities made Bob a good soldier. Bob was drafted into the Army in 1967. On a required military test, Bob earned the highest score ever to come out of the Detroit testing area. Because he did so well, he was offered the opportunity to enter flight school, which would require further training, but he chose to go to Vietnam to be with his buddies. Sergeant Knoll's quick actions and successful leadership earned him the Bronze Star Medal for heroism. He was commended for his exceptional courage, professional skills, and exemplary devotion to duty. Army Sergeant Robert Edwin Knoll died in Vietnam on September 27, 1968, while serving his country. He was 20 years old.
Today, we honor Robert Ray Buskell, a member of the class of 1969. He was a son of Mr. and Mrs. Ray Buskell and a brother to Betty. As a student, Robert was involved in many extracurricular activities, which included Spanish club, choir, football, and baseball. Outside of school, his personal interest included bowling, working on cars, and playing in a band. He enjoyed the outdoors and participated in scouting and many outdoor sports, such as hunting, archery, and fishing. He was also active in Rose Park Reformed Church. After high school, Robert joined the United States Army and was assigned to Vietnam. He left Holland on May 11, 1970, and was in South Vietnam for only 22 days. Private First Class Robert Ray Buskell died in South Vietnam on June 6, 1970, while serving his country. He was 19 years old.
Today we honor Stephen Brink, a member of the class of 1977. During high school, Stephen liked to play football and enjoyed being around others. Stephen was an all-around people person, and his mother says one word to describe Steve was loving. Stephen had a love for flying. It was his life. He received his private pilot's license at age 16. If he wasn't at school, he was at Park Township Airport, working there as well as learning to fly. After graduating from West Ottawa, Stephen joined the Army and was an airplane mechanic, ranking as corporal. Stephen was stationed at Norfolk, Virginia for 1.5 years. On September 15, 1979, Stephen flew home from his Army base outside Washington, D.C. with his fiancée, Robin Sibley, to surprise his mother for his 20th birthday. On the flight home, the engine of the airplane caught fire and the plane crashed near Hastings, Michigan. Corporal Stephen J. Brink, his fiancée, Robin Sibley, and 2 others died on September 15, 1979. He was 20 years old.
Today we honor Russell Terry King, a member of the class of 1974. Terry, as he was known, moved to Holland at the age of 2 with his family, which included 8 other children. Terry enjoyed art very much. Painting provided a form of expression for him. Terry's teachers remembered him as talkative and lively and a pleasure to have in class. Terry's friends remember his fun-loving personality and his enjoyment of life. Terry entered the Navy after graduating in 1974 and served as an electrician aboard the USS Degran. Prior to this, he had married and had a son, Russell Terry Jr., who later followed in his father's footsteps and joined the Navy. Electronic technician, 2nd class, Russell Terry King died at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, on September 17, 1979, while serving his country. He was 24 years old.
Today, we honor Joel Hotchkiss, a member of the class of 1993. Prior to his decision to enlist in the service, Joel had plans to attend Grand Rapids Community College. Those plans were put on hold when he chose to serve his country by enlisting in the Marine Corps. At Camp Pendleton, where he was stationed north of San Diego, Joel was known as the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company C because he had an excellent reputation for his music. His rendition of taps could bring tears to one's eyes. Following his year in the service, Joel continued serving his country through the Marine Reserves. Joel also had plans to continue schooling and to pursue the study of architecture. He and his best friend Keith had dreamed of starting their own company. However, Joel's dreams were left to be fulfilled by others. In December of 1994, Joel lost his life in an automobile accident. Marine Private First Class Joel H. Hotchkiss died in Pullman, Michigan on December 31st, 1994. He was 20 years old.
Today we honor Andrew C. Seif, a member of the class of 2006. He was the son of Charlotte Nealis and Carl Seif, brother to Emily, Karen, and John, and husband to Dawn Bredeweg Seif, also a West Ottawa graduate. During high school, Andrew attended Marmion Military Academy in Illinois, Catholic Central High School in Grand Rapids, and then finished his senior year at West Ottawa. While in high school, Andrew participated in many different sports, including football and rugby. Kids gravitated toward Andrew, and he always made time for people, especially for those who didn't fit in. He attracted lost souls, as his mother recalls. He also loved the outdoors, Boy Scouts, and snowboarding. Andrew did not feel that college was the right fit for him, but the military was. He asked his mom to sign his enlistment papers the summer between his junior and senior years of high school, and then came to West Ottawa to finish high school and earn his diploma so that he could join the Marine Corps. Andrew chose the Marines because he felt they had a reputation of being tough and having a rigorous training for their recruits. Andrew loved boot camp, and in the final challenge, a 40-plus mile hike with a 50-pound pack on his back, Andrew was the first one to finish, and then he went back to help the other guys out. Andrew did one tour in Iraq and 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. While in 2012, while serving in Afghanistan, Andrew put his life on the line to save his teammate who came under enemy fire. His heroism earned him the Marine of the Year award from the United Service Organization. On March 10, 2015, just 1 week after being awarded the Silver Star for his actions in Afghanistan, Staff Sergeant Andrew Seif died in a helicopter crash during a training exercise off the coast of Florida. He was 26 years old.
With deepest respect and highest tribute, we're now attentive to the call of the roll. The following West Ottawa High School students died while serving their country, defending the freedom we cherish. Daniel Arizmendez, class of 1965. Robert Canal, class of 1965. Terry Robert Meyer, class of 1965. Robert J. Westrate, class of 1966. Robert Ray Buskell, class of 1969. Russell Terry King, class of 1974. Stephen Brink, class of 1977. Joel Hotchkiss, class of 1993. Andrew C. Seif, class of 2006.
Once again, I would like to thank our veterans and guests of honor. Please join me in one more round of applause for our veterans. Thank you to the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 73, for allowing us to display the Vietnam Memorial Wall this morning. Please feel free to take a closer look at the memorial and pay tribute on your way out. A special thanks to our student speakers and to our high school band and choir. Thank you to Mrs. Cherry, Mr. Yeager, Mrs. Cheney, Ms. Garcia, Mrs. Kephart, and Mrs. Stanley. They put in a lot of hard work to make today's event possible. This year, we will be continuing our tradition of having our veterans participate in a parade to our middle schools. Veterans, please exit out the doors behind you and make your way so the students can help you find where you need to go. Students, if you could please exit throughout those doors so that the veterans may use these doors, we would appreciate it. Thank you again for everyone for joining us this morning. and as always, go well.